The story begins with three friends, Daniel, Mia, and Chris, who shared a fascination for urban legends. They weren't believers, at least not at first. To them, haunted places and ghost stories were just entertainment, something to laugh about while scrolling online late at night. But when they stumbled across an old article about the Black Hollow Motel, they saw their chance to make something viral. The motel had been abandoned for nearly 30 years after several guests vanished without a trace. Police reports described it as unsafe, the floors unstable, the walls crumbling. Locals, however, whispered darker things. People said the building was alive, that it lured people inside and kept them forever. That was exactly the kind of story the three friends wanted for their documentary. Armed with a single tripod, 3 flashlights, and Daniel's old video camera, they set out just after midnight. The motel stood like a carcass on the side of the highway, its roof sagging, windows shattered, vines crawling up its walls like veins. The front sign still flickered faintly with broken neon letters. Black Hollow, it read, but the O was missing, so it looked more like Black HLL. The moment they stepped inside, the camera light caught the dust swirling in the air. The smell of mildew was thick, mixed with something faintly metallic. Their footsteps echoed too loudly in the hollow space, as if the motel wanted to announce their presence. At first, the mood was playful. Chris cracked jokes, filming himself pretending to be a ghost hunter. Mia kept warning them to be careful, her voice uneasy, but Daniel insisted on recording every corner. "We need something creepy," he said. "Even rats would do." The halls were lined with peeling wallpaper, doors slightly ajar, carpets long since rotted away. But as they pushed deeper, the laughter faded. Something about the silence pressed down on them. It wasn't empty silence. It felt expectant, like the building was listening. The first sign came when the camera began to glitch. Static rolled across the screen, though the battery was full. Daniel smacked the side of it, but the static didn't fade. Instead, faintly in the distortion, a shape appeared behind them, tall, dark, with limbs too long. But when they turned, the hallway was empty. They brushed it off as interference. Then came the sound, a dragging noise, slow and steady, echoing through the walls. It wasn't random, it was rhythmic, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. The camera picked up their whispered panic as they followed the sound down a hallway they swore hadn't been there before. The hall led them to room 6, the door hanging off its hinges. Inside, the walls were covered in words carved deep into the plaster. "Stay with us." Mia begged them to leave. "This isn't funny anymore," she whispered, clutching Daniel's sleeve. But Chris, ever the skeptic, laughed it off. "It's just graffiti. Someone probably did this years ago." Yet when Daniel zoomed the camera toward the corner, they all saw it. Something crouched there, tall and thin, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. The moment the light touched it, the figure dissolved into shadow. Panic set in. They tried to run back the way they came, but the motel had changed. The hallway no longer led to the lobby. Instead, it twisted and curved back to the same room again and again. Every door they opened led to the same place, room 6. It was as if the motel had swallowed them. The dragging grew louder. Doors slammed shut one by one down the hall, moving closer like footsteps. Chris shouted in frustration and stormed into the dark, his voice echoing. Seconds later, the camera captured his scream, high, raw, then cut off suddenly. When Daniel and Mia reached him, he was gone. Only his flashlight remained, flickering weakly on the floor. The footage grew more chaotic after that. The camera shook violently as Daniel and Mia sprinted through endless corridors. The walls stretched and warped, lined now with mirrors. But the reflections weren't their own. The glass showed twisted versions of them, Daniel with hollow eyes, Mia with her mouth stretched into an impossible grin. In every reflection, shadowy figures crowded behind them, dozens of them, all watching silently. Mia sobbed, pleading for Daniel to stop filming. But the camera refused to shut off. No matter how many times he pressed the button, the red light kept blinking. "It doesn't want us to leave," he muttered, voice shaking. The dragging was now right behind them, scraping along the floor, faster, hungrier. The recording showed Mia's terrified face one last time before something yanked her backward into the shadows. Her scream was sharp, then gone, leaving Daniel alone. He stumbled into a room. It was room 6 again, though it looked different now. The rotting bed was gone. In its place stood an old television, static crackling on the screen. Slowly, the static cleared, and the TV displayed the live feed of Daniel himself, shaking, crying, holding the camera. Behind him, on the screen, dozens of faceless figures gathered, closer and closer. The last moments of the tape caught Daniel turning around, eyes widening in horror. The camera dropped to the floor. Blackness consumed the lens. And then silence. When police later searched the Black Hollow Motel, they found no trace of the 3 friends. No bodies. No footprints. No sign they had ever been there. All that remained was the camera, lying in the dust of room 6. Investigators tried to play the footage, but most of it was corrupted, nothing but static. All except the very end, where a whisper bled through the speakers, "Stay with us." And that was the last recording before they vanished.